She doesn't miss you when you're texting her constantly. She misses you when you're silent, present elsewhere, and becoming something she can't ignore. Every man's been there. You pull back, thinking maybe she'll chase. But then the doubt creeps in. Is she even thinking about me? Does she care? Or did I just disappear completely from her world? Here's the truth. Most men don't realize your absence doesn't go unnoticed. In fact, it speaks, it stirs, it challenges her mind in ways your presence never could. When you're not around, she starts to feel things she can't explain. Not always love, not always longing, but tension, curiosity, sometimes desire. Why? Because space forces her to sit with what you really meant. And women, especially the emotionally intelligent ones, are constantly scanning for emotional leadership. They want to know, who are you when I'm not looking? Are you grounded or grasping? Are you a man on his path or one stuck in orbit around me? That's what this video will show you. The 10 emotional reactions she has when you're not around that most men never see coming. We're breaking down psychology, attraction, and Stoic energy, so you don't just get noticed, you get remembered. Let's get into it. Number 1. She feels you more when you're gone. You'd think being constantly available would make her feel closer to you, that the more time you spend, the more she invests emotionally. But here's the cold truth most men never realize. A woman often feels a man more when he's not around. It's counterintuitive, but powerful. Let's be real, most guys are wired to pursue, especially older men who've been taught that consistency and presence are the marks of care. So when she starts to pull away, they lean in harder. More texts, more compliments, more time. But this overexposure doesn't build desire, it bleeds it dry. Absence, when used right, is not rejection. It's tension. It's space for emotion to stretch and grow. Take Daniel, 44, recently divorced. He started seeing a woman named Megan, 36, smart, ambitious, beautiful. The connection was electric at first, but he made the classic mistake. Constant messages, long calls, daily check-ins. Within weeks, she cooled off, said she felt smothered. Daniel was confused. He thought he was doing everything right. After taking a break and re-evaluating his approach, Daniel changed his game. He stopped filling every space with his presence. He didn't play games, he just returned to his own life. Gym, work, friends, purpose. And guess what? Megan noticed. She reached out, she initiated, because the silence left her wondering. That wondering is where desire lives. From a Stoic lens, this makes perfect sense. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you're not there, her thoughts paint you in richer tones. She remembers how your voice made her feel, how your presence grounded the room. She romanticizes the mystery. She creates depth in the silence. But if you're always there physically or digitally, she doesn't get a chance to feel anything new. You become part of the background, predictable, safe maybe, but not compelling. Let's go deeper. When a woman feels your absence, she begins to measure her own interest. She starts asking herself, why do I miss him? And that's exactly the frame you want to create. One where she questions herself, not you. Desire isn't built through constant comfort. It's built through emotional contrast. You need to disappear just enough for her to feel your absence, not resent it. This doesn't mean ghosting her or being cold. It means mastering restraint, holding back your need for instant reassurance, owning your presence so fully that your absence leaves a mark. Here's a Stoic reminder for this phase. He who angers you controls you. Epictetus. But in this case, tweak it. He who needs constant presence loses control. When you're driven by the fear of losing her attention, you hand over your power. Instead, focus on becoming a man whose absence speaks volumes. Before we move on, Drop a comment if this has ever happened to you when pulling back made her lean in. Try this. I've seen this. And we're just scratching the surface. What happens next when your presence becomes scarce? You'll want to hear this. Number 2. Silence speaks louder than you think. You don't have to say a word, and yet she hears you, loud and clear. Here's the truth. In a world where everyone's constantly talking, texting, posting and reacting, silence becomes magnetic. It's unsettling. It makes people feel something, especially women, because the female psyche is deeply attuned to subtle shifts in attention, presence and energy. And when your voice disappears, when the notifications stop, when your attention is no longer immediately available, she notices. Silence, when used with intention, is not passive, it's power. It speaks volumes about who you are as a man. Because while most guys chase validation, try to explain themselves, try to over-communicate, the man who remains quiet signals something deeper, something stoic. He's composed, he's in control, he doesn't need to prove. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Silence, then, is not emptiness. It's a conscious refusal to waste words on what doesn't serve your peace. It's the art of restraint, and that is felt. Here's why this matters more than most men realize. When you're silent, especially after emotional tension or a moment of vulnerability, you're not just avoiding conflict. You're letting her sit with herself, with her thoughts, her emotions, her curiosity. And that space, that pause, that's where her desire wakes up. Because without the noise, without the distractions, she begins to ask herself the questions that actually matter. What is he thinking? Why hasn't he reached out? Did he go too far? Does he care? Or is he truly unshaken? This uncertainty doesn't create anxiety in a negative way. It creates interest. It reactivates the imagination. It invites her to lean in. Most men ruin this dynamic by rushing to fill the silence. They text again, they call, they explain. And every time they do, they lower the tension, and with it, the attraction. But the man who holds his silence, who chooses his words with precision, who lets stillness say what he could, that man becomes unforgettable. Let's be clear. This isn't manipulation. It's not about using silence as a tactic to punish or control. It's about being disciplined enough to not seek emotional relief through over-communication. As Marcus Aurelius said, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." And there's nothing less within your control than how quickly someone replies, reacts, or returns. What you do control, though, is how you respond. And sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. A woman remembers silence more than noise. She remembers the man who didn't explain his worth, but simply lived it. She remembers the stillness he brought into a room, the calm he didn't need to advertise. Silence, in this way, is seductive. It says, "I don't need you to understand me right now. You'll feel it eventually." So next time you're tempted to break the silence just to soothe your own discomfort, pause. Let the silence speak. Let her listen. Let her wonder. Drop this in the comments if you've learned to value silence. I control silence. Oh, and you'll want to stay with me, because what happens when she starts imagining you, not just remembering you? That's where things shift. Let's move on. Number 3. Distance creates desire. You don't have to be in front of her to be on her mind. In fact, sometimes being away is the very thing that makes you unforgettable. Let's talk about David, 46, a divorced architect in Denver. After ending a long-term relationship, he started casually seeing Lauren, 39, a successful marketing executive. Things were going well. A few dates, shared laughter, late-night conversations. But David did something most men don't have the courage to do. He stepped back. Not because he wasn't interested, not because he was playing games, but because he understood something deeper. Desire doesn't grow in overexposure. It thrives in space. He didn't text every morning. He didn't chase. He didn't ask, "Where are we headed?" Instead, he lived. He worked. He trained. He spent time in stillness. And what happened? Lauren leaned in. She began to wonder what he was thinking. She reread his old texts. She told herself, "He's different." See, most men fear distance because they think it means disconnection. But women, especially emotionally intelligent, experienced women, know that space reveals the truth. If a woman never misses you, you were never that memorable. This is where desire takes root. When you're always available, she doesn't feel the contrast. And without contrast, there's no emotional movement. It's all just static presence, predictable, safe, flat. But when you disappear a little, when she can't always access you, suddenly she's imagining again. She's remembering your voice, your scent, the way you made her laugh. That's not manipulation. That's time's energy. That's natural polarity. Distance speaks to a woman's emotions in a language louder than words. And this isn't new. The ancient Stoics understood this concept deeply. Epictetus wrote, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Translation? Your need to be constantly present, constantly reassuring, constantly connected, that's a form of dependency. And dependency kills mystery. Letting go doesn't mean you vanish. It means you let the silence stretch just enough for her to mistimes you. Enough for her to feel that desire pulling her thoughts back to you. Let's be honest, you can flood a woman with attention and still lose her. But if you give her just the right amount of presence balanced with absence, you invite her to invest. In David and Lauren's story, the turning point wasn't a romantic text or a grand gesture. It was the moment Lauren realized she was times checking her phone, wondering when he'd reach out. That moment of wondering, that's when desire caught fire. So what can you do? Don't always be the first to text. Don't explain every gap in communication. Don't fear the pause. Let her feel your absence. And trust that if the connection is real, the space will draw her closer, not push her away. Here's the truth. When you give her time to imagine you, you become more vivid in her mind than when you're physically there. That's the paradox. Drop this in the comments if you understand the power of space. I create desire. And now, let's talk about something even more powerful. The emotion she hides when you're not around. You'll want to hear this next. Number 4. She watches who you become without her. There's a quiet moment that happens after the silence, when she realizes she's no longer the center of your world. At first, she might enjoy the space. It gives her the illusion of control. She thinks, he'll come back, he always does. But as time stretches and your absence doesn't crumble you instead, it shapes you. Her curiosity turns into an unsettling question. Who is he becoming without me? That's when she starts watching. Not through texts, not through conversations, but through subtle observations, your social media presence, mutual friends updates, your energy when you're in the same room but no longer orbiting around her. She watches because the part of her ego that once felt superior is now being challenged. You see, many men fall into the trap of proving their worth when they feel left behind. They chase, explain, over-communicate, thinking more presence equals more value. But the man who grows in silence, who builds quietly, is the one who rewrites the narrative. She remembers how you made her feel, but now she's forced to reconcile who you're becoming without her influence. This shift is powerful, because when a woman sees you thriving not out of spite, but out of grounded self-respect, it forces her to question everything she assumed about your dynamic. She might have thought she held the emotional leverage, but real transformation doesn't beg for attention. It simply becomes undeniable. There's a quote by Epictetus that says, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." That's the Stoic's path. You don't change to get her back. You change because you were always meant to evolve, with or without her. The irony is when that evolution is real, when it's rooted in self-possession and purpose, she feels it. And more importantly, she's drawn to it. Your growth challenges her. It repositions the power, and not through manipulation, but through energy. She can feel when you've stopped orbiting her, when your attention, your time, your passion is no longer centered around her approval. She may not admit it, but she notices, and it stirs something ancient and emotional inside her, because now, you're not the man who needs her to feel complete. You're the man who's becoming dangerously fulfilled without her. That's the man who triggers obsession not by chasing, but by building. She starts to wonder, did I underestimate him? And that seed of doubt plants a whole forest of desire, because desire grows in uncertainty, not the type of confusion that comes from games, but the kind that grows when your presence no longer feels predictable, when your absence creates mystery, when your improvement creates tension. This is how men who embody Stoicism win, not through cold detachment, but through powerful presence, even in absence. They stay grounded, they let time speak, and most importantly, they allow space to reveal, not manipulate what she truly feels. And here's the twist most men don't see coming. If she does reach out, it won't be to check on you. It'll be because she wants to reconnect with the man you've become. So the question isn't, will she come back? The real question is, when she sees you again, will she even recognize you? Let that version of you speak louder than any message you could ever send. Now tell me, have you ever felt this shift in power when you stopped chasing? Comment below. I've lived that. Curious what makes her feel your energy, even when you're not trying. You're going to want to stick around. Number 5. Her mind replays what you didn't say. Sometimes what you don't say echoes louder than anything you could have said. This is where real power lies, in the unspoken, in the restraint, in the silence that leaves space for her imagination to fill in the blanks. And believe me, she does. Let's be real for a moment. When you walk away from a conversation without explaining yourself, without over-expressing your feelings, without trying to justify why you're calm, collected, and moving forward, she notices. Not just what you said, but what you didn't say, and her mind doesn't let that go. Take, for example, Jason, a 44-year-old architect from Denver. He dated a younger woman named Emily, 31, who was used to men constantly validating her, praising her, and filling any silence with desperation. But Jason didn't do that. After a small disagreement, he didn't flood her phone with long texts or apologies. He gave space. He left words unsaid, not to manipulate, but because he knew who he was, and he didn't need to explain that. What happened? Emily kept thinking about what he might have said. She read into every pause, every calm response, every okay text. She replayed their last interaction more than once. And what made it so addictive for her was this. Jason gave her nothing extra to hold on to, so her mind clung to what was missing. That's the hook. When you don't give away your emotional blueprint, when you don't overshare or break your masculine frame to reassure her, you become more than a man, you become a mystery. And mystery is the birthplace of feminine obsession. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. Think about that in context. You can't control her thoughts, but you can control what you give her to work with. If you flood her with emotion, you rob her of curiosity. If you speak less, act clear, and move forward, you hand her a mirror she can't stop looking into. She wonders, what is he thinking? Why is he so calm? Did he move on? Was I wrong? That mental loop she enters, that's not manipulation. That's the effect of masculine clarity and restraint. Because the truth is, women don't obsess over what's obvious. They obsess over what they can feel but can't fully grasp. You see, Emotional intensity doesn't always come from raising your voice or pouring your heart out. Sometimes, the most powerful message you can send is the one you never say out loud. That's what happened to Jason. While Emily was used to men trying to win her back with words, she found herself rereading his last 3-word message over and over. "Take care, Em." It was neutral, but it wasn't what she expected, and because he didn't chase, she started feeling the pull. This doesn't mean you become cold or emotionally unavailable. It means you become intentional, a man who speaks when it matters, not just to fill silence. Because here's the truth most men miss. You don't have to prove anything to be remembered. You just have to be felt deeply, once. And silence, when used with confidence, makes you unforgettable. So next time you feel the urge to over-explain, pause. Hold your frame. Let her imagination do what words never could, because she'll replay what you didn't say, far more than anything you could have. Comment below, "I leave space." What happens when she starts missing the man you are now? Let's talk about that next. Number 6. Absence tests your masculinity. You think absence only affects her. Think again. The moment you step away, the moment you go silent, it's not just her thoughts that start running wild. It's yours too. And that's exactly where most men fail, not in the absence itself, but in how they handle that silence on their side. See, a woman can feel when a man loses his sense of self the second he's no longer in her presence. She might not say it. She might even seem like she's doing her own thing. But subconsciously, she's watching. Not your moves, your energy, your frame, your centeredness. And absence, my friend, is the ultimate test of all of it. This is where the philosophy of Stoicism separates men from boys. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That means when she pulls back, when she stops texting, when she goes quiet, the question isn't what she's doing. The question is, who are you when she's not looking? Because the masculine energy isn't about chasing or proving. It's about presence, even in your absence. Are you still anchored? Are you still living with purpose? Or are you checking your phone every 10 minutes, wondering what she's thinking? This is the point where desire either sharpens or dies. And here's the paradox most men miss. She wants to feel your distance. Not the kind that screams insecurity or manipulation, but the kind that whispers, "I don't need you to feel whole." That's intoxicating to a woman. It's rare. It's masculine. When you're physically not there, your presence has to become psychological. That only happens when you're not reactive, when you don't chase, when you stay still in your purpose, not trying to control how she feels or what she does. The truth is, women don't fall in love with a man because he constantly reminds her that he's there. They fall for the man who can disappear and still feel unshakably present in her mind. But that takes discipline. It takes letting go of the outcome. And that's why absence is so powerful. It exposes what you're really made of. If you crumble when she goes silent, she knows she owns your center. But if you stay composed, focused, even playful with life, she feels the shift. And that makes her lean back in. Seneca said it best, "He who is brave is free." And in the world of attraction, freedom is everything. A woman wants to feel like your world is complete with or without her in it. That doesn't make you cold. That makes you solid. Absence, then, is your proving ground. Not to her, but to you. So next time the silence creeps in, don't rush to fill it. Sit in it, breathe through it, build from it. Because if you can remain unshaken when she pulls back, she won't just come closer, she'll come back to a man worth chasing. Now, tell me, are you the man who collapses in the quiet or the one who thrives in it? Type in the comments, "I stay grounded." And stick around, because in the next part, we'll uncover a truth she'll never admit out loud, but always acts on. It might just change the way you see everything. Number 7. She craves the man who withholds. Let's get one thing straight. What a woman can't fully have becomes what she wants most. Now, I'm not saying play games or be manipulative. I'm talking about a deeper masculine power, the ability to withhold. Not affection, not care, but access, emotional availability, validation, attention, energy. In the exact moments she expects you to hand it over like every other man. Because here's the truth, most men rush to give everything too soon. They think the more they express, the more they reveal, the more they try, the more she'll feel something. But what happens instead? She pulls back. She loses interest. Why? Because you've taken away the mystery. You've removed the tension. You've made yourself predictable, safe, and honestly forgettable. Let's take a real-world example. Meet Jason, 42, a divorced architect from Austin, Texas. Successful, fit, charming. He meets Samantha, 32, an attractive marketing exec. Their first few conversations are electric, but then Jason does what most good men do. He starts oversharing. He texts too much. He tries to be clear, emotionally open, constantly available. Within 2 weeks, she ghosts. Now contrast that with the version of Jason who understands the power of withholding. He still shows interest, but he doesn't give it all away. He lets silence sit between messages. He stays present when they're together, but doesn't over-explain himself. He lets her feel the gaps, and she starts leaning in, wanting to know more. Suddenly, she's the one initiating. Why? Because he's not trying to be chosen. He's letting her wonder if she's being chosen. That's the shift. In the words of Epictetus, he who is not master of himself is not free, and freedom is attractive. But here's the nuance. Freedom isn't about being distant. It's about being unavailable to anyone who hasn't earned your presence. And women feel that. They feel when a man isn't desperate to impress, when he's not emotionally dependent on her reaction, when he holds back, not out of fear, but out of intentionality. This creates a psychological gap. And guess what fills that gap? Desire, curiosity, tension. She starts thinking about you more because you've left something for her to discover, something sacred, something she doesn't get from every man. The man who withholds isn't playing hard to get. He simply knows his worth, and that worth is not on clearance. So let's flip the script. Stop trying to fill every silence. Stop chasing validation. Stop giving her emotional candy just to keep her interested. Instead, become a man who withholds because he's whole, because he doesn't need to be seen to feel seen, because he doesn't give access. He makes it something she earns. Samantha didn't ghost because Jason was too honest. She ghosted because there was nothing left to pull her in. The second version of Jason, the one who withheld, he became her question mark, and question marks are irresistible. So now I ask you, are you giving too much, too soon? Let her work for your depth, not because you're cold, but because you're powerful. Drop a comment, I'm not easily accessed, and stay locked in, because in the next part, we explore a truth most men overlook: how your detachment can actually become the fuel for her emotional obsession. Number 8. Your energy lingers in her body. There's something you need to understand, something most men never realize. You don't leave her body when you leave the room. If your presence was powerful, if your energy was anchored, if your masculinity was grounded in stillness, not noise, she carries you with her. Not your words, not your looks, but the feeling. Your energy becomes a fingerprint on her nervous system. She might not admit it. She might not fully understand it herself, but something in her body remembers how you made her feel. That tension in her stomach when you looked at her without saying a word. That electric calm when your presence filled the space but demanded nothing. That silent confidence that made her pulse slow down or speed up. And it lingers. She can be alone in her car, in the gym, at a meeting, and suddenly your energy hits her like a shadow across her thoughts. Why? Because most men flood women with attention, compliments, performance, but it all vanishes the second they're gone. Nothing sticks. But when a man embodies his masculinity, when he doesn't try to perform but simply is, he leaves behind a felt memory, one that's more powerful than physical touch. This is what Stoicism teaches us. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Now think about this. What happens when your thoughts, your focus, your presence are rooted in depth, restraint, and calm strength? That's the color you impress on her experience. Not desperation, not overexcitement, but grounded intensity. She doesn't remember what you said. She remembers how it felt to be looked at by a man who didn't need to impress her. And here's the part that most men never get. The most arousing thing you can offer is your stillness. Stillness isn't boring, it's magnetic, it's rare. And in a world of noise, women crave the man who doesn't chase but invites. The man who doesn't fill the space but becomes the space. That's what lingers. The man who simply listens, watches, speaks slowly, touches intentionally, not for outcome, but from presence. He's the one she dreams about days later, wondering why a simple moment shook her so deeply. This is not just about sexual chemistry, it's energetic imprinting. You leave something in her body that whispers, "You've never felt this before." And when you're gone, she starts to wonder, where did that calm go? Why does everything feel louder without him? Why does my body keep remembering a man I only saw once? That's when you become more than a man. You become a felt experience she can't escape. So, here's what I want you to reflect on. Are you trying to impress her? Or are you leaving a signature? Because your energy, if it's cultivated, clean, and controlled, will linger far longer than anything you could say or do. This is seduction without movement, impact without force. As the Stoics say, he who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe. Marcus Aurelius. And when a man brings that harmony into a room, he leaves echoes in her body long after he's gone. Drop a comment, I move without noise. And don't go anywhere, because what comes next isn't about what she feels for you. It's about what she does because of it. Number 9. She can feel if you've moved on. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to text her, post about it, or even look her way again. She'll feel it. The moment your energy detaches authentically, not performatively, something shifts in her, and it hits her harder than any silence you've given before. Let's be clear. Women are incredibly sensitive to emotional shifts, especially from a man they once had a connection with. Even if she's acting distant, even if she ended things, even if she pretended she didn't care. Because here's what most guys miss. When you were still holding on, even subtly, she felt safe. She felt your emotional tether, that invisible pull, that lingering attachment. But the moment you let go, truly let go, she knows. Let me give you a real example. Tyler, 39, met Rachel, 31, through mutual friends in Austin. It started hot, playful, deep, but after a few months, she began pulling away. Less texting, vague replies, late-night excuses. Tyler didn't chase, he didn't beg, but deep down, he still held space for her, still hoped she'd come back. And Rachel, she felt that energy. She didn't say it, but she knew he was still there. That's why she didn't feel the urgency. That's why she didn't fear losing him. But then, something shifted. Tyler started focusing on himself again. Back to boxing, back to reading, back to his business. His presence returned to himself. He wasn't cold, he wasn't rude, but he wasn't emotionally accessible anymore. He'd moved on. Guess who popped back into his DMs a week later? Exactly. Because when a woman senses that a man has emotionally released her, it disrupts the validation cycle she's been quietly feeding on. Your detachment isn't a punishment, it's a signal. a signal that your life force is no longer orbiting around her existence. And let's be real here, this isn't a game. You can't fake moving on. She can feel the difference between performance and peace. If you're secretly hoping she sees your Instagram story and regrets everything, that energy leaks. That's not detachment. That's manipulation. And women can smell it from a mile away. True release is quiet power. It's you returning to yourself. It's you embodying what Epictetus meant when he said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Her response to your silence is not your concern. Your response to yourself, that's where the real seduction begins. Because the man who is whole without her, the man who honors what was but doesn't cling to what's gone, is the man who becomes dangerously attractive without even trying. And here's the twist. Once she realizes she's no longer the center of your emotional gravity, she starts questioning her own. She starts wondering why she misses a man who's no longer watching, why her body reacts to someone who's no longer reacting to her. That's when obsession is born. Not from neediness, not from anger, but from your freedom. So ask yourself, are you still secretly waiting? Or have you finally become unavailable in the most powerful way? Drop a comment, "I've moved on," and get ready. Because what happens next, it's not about what she feels. It's about what she's willing to do to get that feeling back. Number 10. You're sexiest when you're focused elsewhere. Let's end with a truth that most men overlook. You become most desirable when your focus is no longer on her. Sounds counterintuitive, right? We've been raised to believe that attention equals affection, that showing we care means giving her our focus, our time, our everything. And yes, presence matters when it's earned. But obsession? That's where men lose their power. Here's the shift. When a man redirects his energy back to his mission, his mind, his movement, something primal ignites in a woman. Because now, he's not trying to win her. He's winning at life. Women are not turned on by a man who waits. They are turned on by a man who moves. Think about it. When a woman senses your attention is no longer orbiting around her body, her texts, her replies, what does she do? She starts chasing the mystery. She starts wondering where your fire went. And more importantly, who's basking in it now? But the truth is, it's not another woman. It's your craft, your discipline, your inner calm, your workouts, your books, your business, your silence. You're not performing indifference, you're living in purpose. There's something erotically magnetic about a man immersed in something bigger than validation. It triggers her desire not just to be noticed, but to be chosen by someone who doesn't need to choose her. That's the paradox. The more you center her, the more she drifts. The more you center yourself, the more she leans in. This isn't about playing games. It's about alignment. It's about embodying the Stoic principle. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Epictetus. You want to be a magnetic man, then become absorbed in what sharpens you. A woman's deepest desire isn't a man who endlessly affirms her. It's a man whose life is so rich, she wants to become part of it. Not because he made her the sun, but because he became his own gravity. Let me give you an image. Imagine two men sitting across from a woman at a dinner table. The first man leans forward, eyes wide, hanging on every word she says, smiling too often, trying to find a way to compliment her every 5 minutes. The second man listens, calm, smiling softly. He's not impressed, but not disinterested. He answers her questions with a slow, deliberate cadence. His eyes drift toward the window now and then, not to ignore her, but because his thoughts have weight. He's grounded, somewhere else, even while being present. Now ask yourself, which man does she desire more? It's not the one trying to impress. It's the one already impressed by his own journey. Because that man is unpredictable. He's not waiting to be told he's enough. He already island. You see, When you focus elsewhere, not as a tactic but as a truth, you project security. You signal that your world doesn't collapse when she's not at the center of it. And that confidence, that inner stillness, it's irresistible. It tells her, I want you, but I don't need you. And that's the most attractive energy a man can embody. So the next time you feel the urge to prove your worth to a woman, stop, turn inward, train, build, read, reflect. Make your life so magnetic that she starts wondering what she needs to do to earn a spot in it. Because you're sexiest when you're not watching her. But when she's watching you, focused on something else entirely, and when she realizes that your deepest desire isn't her approval, but your own growth, that's when you stop being the guy she used to know and become the man she can't stop thinking about. Let her feel that. Let her crave that. And above all, never chase what should be drawn to your presence. Here's what you need to understand. Women don't just respond to your presence. They respond to the energy you leave behind, the silence, the tension, the mystery. They feel who you are when you're not trying to be anything at all. So, if you've ever wondered what truly makes her desire you, it's not in the lines you rehearse. It's in the man you become when no one's watching. Every pause, every boundary, every moment, you choose yourself over the need to be chosen. It writes a story in her mind that she can't stop reading. That's how obsession is born. Not through performance, but through presence. So don't just be the guy who gets her attention. Be the man who lingers in her thoughts. Be the calm in her chaos. Be the depth she's never swum in. Because once she feels that, you're no longer just a man. You become a standard. And trust me, a woman never forgets the man who taught her what it feels like to be around something real. If this video awakened something in you, don't let it stop here. Now it's your turn. Start living like the man she feels, even when you're gone. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay grounded, stay powerful, stay desired.